Hey, what's up, you guys? It's your girl Lauren Sizzle, and you are now tuned in to one of the hottest talk shows in the nation. We Talk Weekly's After the Talk.
I'm Classy Lady Sparkle. You want to binge listen to our shows? Follow the We Talk Weekly's podcast on iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Spreaker.
What up, folks? It's your boy Charles Gregory. Make sure to follow us on all our socials at We Talk Weekly.
Hey, y'all, it's your girl Lily, so make sure you keep it locked to We Talk Weekly on 106.5 FM.
So without further ado, we're going to bring someone up, Miss Cherelle Parker. Let's give her a round of applause, There you go. Can you hear us well?
Yes, I can hear you. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. So we couldn't wait to interview you. We couldn't wait for you to come on We Talk Weekly. We've been waiting a long time. And, before we start the interview, something that I like to lead with is, how are you? You've been, doing run after interview after interview after campaign after campaign after debate after debate, So, I just want to see how you are. How are you doing? How's your health? All that good old stuff. Yeah.
Charles, one first, thank you so much for that question. That's not one I get a lot. Right, because I don't think they don't ask it because they really don't want to know the answer. But I'm making it. I'm doing the best I can with what I have.
Fantastic. I want to start with, I've been following you and all of the, city council, everyone who put their hat in to, run for mayor, right? And I seen you on, this whole campaign and you started kind of like, you made a joke about, you started in the dirt, right? They say you started as an underdog, right? But I seen you kind of scale. You said you've been able to scale simply just by being you. And so I'll start right there. How important is it for candidates to really show whom they are so people can literally identify with them who's part of the community?
Charles, thank you so much for that question. Political pundits, experts refer to the primary election that we just finished as the most competitive, the most expensive, and most intense mayoral primary election in the history of my lifetime. And I'm hip hop plus one. And when you have such a competitive field of people running at one time, you're trying to figure out how best to communicate with the public, with the people. And for me, it was a perfect opportunity to say, wait, other people may come off as being this bastion of perfection of, they know everything. If you just vote for me, I'll set you free. That was something I remember the alderman saying on Good Times. And I want to be really clear that was not who I was. Like that, I would use my real life lived experience, my intergovernmental professional experience at the local and state level, and as a community organizer in my humble beginnings, along with my academic preparedness. I would use every talent and skill that I had to try to change things for the better in our city. And I didn't change based on the audience. I didn't go in front of white people, Latino people, Black people, any kind of people and say, hello, this is, oh, hey, what's up? No. It was, this is who Cherelle is. If it's God's will and you give me the privilege of serving you, I'm going to be the exact same person that you've seen all of my life. So I'm not becoming a chameleon and changing for any. I'm not going to do that. And guess what? No matter the race, class, socioeconomic status, zip code, religion, so sexual orientation or identity of the constituency I was in front of, by the time I left the room, even when they disagreed with me, even when I talked about issues where people would come up and say, well, it was all right that you said this, and that, but I don't agree with you on this. But I do like the fact that, like, you human. And that was it, Charles. That's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I like to do on the show is try to humanize the candidates, because what I don't want to happen is for community to feel, because they already feel like, do my vote count? Does my vote matter, right? And to humanize the candidates, that's what we tend to do, right? And so let's begin with, how you would tell someone, or how would you explain to someone the importance in voting, right? That they feel sometimes that my vote doesn't matter, my vote doesn't count. What would you say to that person?
As a Black woman who grew up in poverty and who's a history buff and so much of a first generation everything in my family, I know that as Black people, we've primarily used three tools in order to gain any sort of advancement in this nation. One, we use nonviolent social change and advocacy. So those are our marches. Those are our ways to raise our voices in a united fashion. That's one tool. The second tool that's been very important and effective for us has been the courts. Historically, we're not voting without a Civil Rights Act and a Voting Rights Act. How did we do that? By voting for people and supporting people through that nonviolent social protest, along with our engagement in the voting process to elect people who would fight to enact those laws in the legislature, but also who would support judges who, when they got there, they would put fairness right in the law first and foremost, right? So three tools: the nonviolent social change and the protest. We used our voting rights as a tool to elect people to the legislature, and then to elect judges and legislators who would support judges, those judicial history making precedents that the court rules on. We then ensure that they're being enforced and we improve them through the law. And so when anybody says it doesn't matter whether or not you participate in the process, and a big one for me, may not get to you all, but because I've been in local and state government, nothing teased me off more than hearing people say, I only vote during the presidential election. You what?
Yes.
And the president does what to make sure your trash is picked up and the potholes that's ruining your car are fixed, and the state where the funding for education comes from, and for gun legislation, and you only vote in what? So we've done a poor job. We've done a poor job connecting the results and the impact on people's daily lives to the work that we do, because they get frustrated. You tell me to go push that button every year, Cherelle, my street's still dirty. My commercial quarter, no trees, it's not green, businesses run down, all of these vacancies, a lot of abandoned properties, and you want me to believe in government? Why? That's where that's the challenge for people like me. How do I make it work so that you can touch it, see it, and feel it?
Now, you're a certified English teacher, correct? You have a license. Yeah, that's correct, right? I don't want to put out no fake news, anything, right? That's accurate, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
People don't say it.
No doubt. So I just want to you want to you've been on a talking point as it relates to enacting year-round schooling, right? And I want to know what is the plan based around that? Because I did hear the one argument of as you outlined, and parents, look, I want to be able to travel, but I'm wondering if you have spoken to even any of the teachers because you're a teacher yourself, you have been, and so how would they feel to not be able to have that break for the year, that summer break, to get away from the challenges of the year round, or the year of, being in the classrooms with the students? And what about the teachers unions? Have you had any conversation based around them in rolling out this plan, and what would that look like?
So that's it, Charles. That's a good question. And so, when you're running in the midst of a campaign, my job was to share a vision for the people of our great city, and to let them know that if they would give me the privilege of serving as the CEO of this city, these are thoughts and ideas and that I would like to see implemented. And that doesn't mean that you have checked every box and that everything is already negotiated as to how you would implement it. But what I said is this is something that I would like to do. And does it mean, Charles, that teachers and students are sitting in traditional classrooms 365, 8:45 in the morning, let's say, to the 6 o'clock, 6:30, 7 o'clock at night? Absolutely not.
Right.
Year-round public education, as I proffered the concept, is creative scheduling. It's not 2 whole months off, 2.5 months off in the summer so we can get back to that summer slide. No, it's creative scheduling. It's 2 weeks off here. It's 3 weeks off here. It's working with the teachers union to figure out how do we do that. But it's not just the teachers union. It's every stakeholder who has a role in providing public education within our existing system. So for me, that's transportation. So that's the school bus drivers. Those are the NTAs. Those are the lunchroom aides. Those are the nurses in the schools. Those are the people who work in the lunchrooms. That's negotiation with all of those adults. So while that part of the negotiations, that hasn't taken place, the concept of us being creative with scheduling and recognizing that the traditional elements that most people in their mind fantasize are occurring in the majority of households in the city of Philadelphia. I know that that's not the case, because the majority of our kids are not growing up in Cosby-like households. And the fact of the matter is, school is not just a safe place for many of our young people, but many of the academic enrichment programs that some parents can afford for their children, whether it's arts and learning how to play the piano or some other instrument, whether it's life sciences and biotech, whether it's the building trades or coding, the tech stuff. Many people, they pay for their children to participate in those kind of activities. When I came up with this concept is, how do you find a way to make readily available within our current structure, homework help, tutoring, everything that there are parents out there paying for on a daily basis for their children, but kids who grow up like you did, Cherelle, being raised by your grandmother and your grandfather on welfare and food stamps and subsidized food, they did the best with what they have. But what about people like you? And not the people, and Charles, you may have heard me say this. I talked to some people who said to me, well, I don't like that proposal about year-round school because I like my children to travel, and my family travels, and we go here, and Charles, I was patient. I listened. I said, you know what, ma'am? Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's great that your family gets the ability to do that. Yeah. But ma'am, guess what? The majority of our kids are not in Disney World or even down south. That's what we used to do when I was growing up. Everybody had a family member down south. Agreed. So some people would go stay down south. That's not even a thing for most of our kids anymore.
True. Right. Agree. Just one piece to that. All of the trades that you mentioned in terms of people, that's out of the schools, I think it would probably be a good idea to even incorporate a lot of those, nonprofits, a lot of those people, the community who's doing the work to, be part of that kind of year-round expectation of educating the kids, to be more inclusive with the organizations who's doing the work,
No, I agree with that, Charles. And listen, when I first got endorsed by the building trades, and we know how powerful and influential they are here in this city, especially for somebody like me who didn't, I'm not independently wealthy, so I couldn't self-fund, right? I couldn't go say, I don't need to have a fundraiser because I can put in $10 million of my own money. When you didn't have that, they become extremely valuable partners. But a lot of people didn't get that the reason why they were so essential is because you partner with the entities that you need to deliver on your vision. Right. If I want the plumbers, the electricians, the laborers, the steam fitters, President Biden was just here to announce a $750 million grant to something people heard me talk about on the campaign trail called a hydrogen hub. That's a form of clean energy, an alternative energy source. So we're talking about storing it, transporting it, employing the use of it. Guess what? That's almost 10,000 jobs that our people can be trained for. So rather than trying to fight them to say, listen, you're not black enough, you're not brown enough building trades, you don't have enough people who look like me. We understand that we need to do work there, but you are more likely to work with me and want to help me in the plan when we're partners, and not when I have a bullhorn shouting at you, telling you what you're not. That's, to me, not how you get somebody to want to work with you.
Wow, thanks for that. Yeah.
Cherelle, this is Sparkle, another trio of We Talk Weekly. Thank you again for giving us time today. We do a segment called Good News and Bad News, and we hyper-focus on Philadelphia. And one of the stories today was about a young lady who shot a SEPTA driver 6 times and killing him. So we understand that SEPTA stands for the Southeastern Penn Transportation Authority, and Philadelphia mayor is going to be very limited in what they can do pertaining to SEPTA. But the question is, based on the assaults, the robbery, the rapes, the maliciousness that's going on, what can the next mayor do, or what will you do to assist in making SEPTA services safer for both rider and drivers?
So one, thank you so very much, Sparkle, for that question. Sparkle, Charles mentioned that I was an English teacher. So if I refer to literature a lot, don't charge it to my head and not my heart. James Baldwin, who was a civil rights activist, he was always quoted as stating, particularly one day, somebody said, James Baldwin, mainstream America cares about civil rights too. And James Baldwin said, he answered, I can't believe what you say because I see what you do. I'm happy to tell you in response to that question, not just what I will do in the future to help keep SEPTA bus drivers and employees safe along with the ridership, but I'm happy to tell you that I was proud to be in the forefront when I was in Harrisburg to ensure that the penalties for creating any form of violent actions against our transport worker union employees, that it was the same if it was for any other a state government employee, like a state police officer or a firefighter or a police officer. So how do we do it? My platform is to make Philadelphia safer, cleaner, greener, with access to economic opportunity for all. That means any entity that has a nickel in the quarter of helping Philadelphia be safe, I want to work with them. Local, state, federal government. They've been talking a whole lot in articles about, she said, this particular agency. No, they didn't pick up what I was putting down. I wasn't just talking about one. I said anybody at the local, state, or federal level who can help us make the public health and safety of our city our number one priority. But that's also the police departments of our institutions of higher learning. Remember the officer who got murdered at Temple, right? So that's them. That's SEPTA's police force. That's any entity that could help us. And we've got to have a comprehensive plan to do it. Because if anybody's thinking the Philadelphia Police Department can do it alone, we are not at our 1,600 member complement, and that's just not going to happen. So comprehensive, and appointing a police commissioner who has the ability to bring all of those stakeholders together, develop a plan, comprehensive plan for public safety in our city, and then implementing. All I have to do as the mayor is to stand up and say, we're about to make some tough decisions, and a whole lot of people are not going to like it. Put that on my shoulder. Don't give that to the police commissioner who I've appointed. He or she is implementing a comprehensive plan that's in line with the vision that I've laid out for the city. And that means keeping SEPTA workers safe, especially our bus drivers that are and trained conductors that are interacting with the public, but that's mental and behavioral health too. Because again, the investigation is still ongoing. You all may, because you're journalists and in the media, you may have gotten access to some information I haven't seen, but as somebody somewhere somehow told me something about mental and behavioral health, was involved in this story in some way. So it's a comprehensive approach that we need, and we needed to make our entire city safe.
For that.
Yes, thank you, Queen. And this is Purple. How are you, Sister Cherelle?
Hey, Purple.
So listen, we have to ask at this point, the Middle East has been a tumultuous topic and situation here in Pennsylvania and the United States, and of course right here in Philadelphia, you have some polarizing, people who stand with Israel, people who stand with Palestine. I have to ask you, as a politician, there's a photograph circling around with you holding, that you stand for Israel. I would like to give you an opportunity to say, is that your stance? Is it not your stance? If so, why did you choose a stance? And can you explain your thoughts on it, or did you do it, or did you make that stand?
So, One Purple, thank you for the question. And in essence, not coming to a conclusion without sort of asking the question. And first, I want you to know that although the mayor does not have 1 ounce of influence on deciding what public policy is like in the Middle East, I do understand that what is happening there has a significant impact on our Jewish community and our Muslim community here. And I respect that 1,001%. I wholeheartedly reject anti-Semitism. I reject Islamophobia, and I reject hatred in all forms. I would love to see a ceasefire, and I pray for peace for Palestinians and Israelis. So, and the entire Jewish community. So I want to be really clear about that. Just for the record, it was a photo of my being at a rally about peace. And I was there, and I was supposed to have participated in an act about a week before I attended that event, but because of the campaign trail and I was running, I couldn't attend. And it was when the initial activity had occurred. So when some people saw me there, and that had been the first time, it was also when some other heinous, tragic, activity had occurred in the Middle East. And it was that some people thought that I was choosing one side or the other. Now, what I thank God for is that people in the Muslim community who know Cherelle Parker said we know her, and we know that that's not the case. We know her longstanding relationships. I'm talking about in a substantive way. We know that she is no Johnny come lately supporter of the Muslim community. So we know that the way people attempted to interpret my support against that act of hate, and my affirming that I don't support that act of hatred that occurred. I'm happy that there was a constituency who said, Cherelle Parker, we know who you are. Right. So I pray for peace for the Palestinian community, for the Israeli community, and I reject anti-Semitism. I reject Islamophobia. And that would be like, let me give you an example. If someone attempted to say the Muslim community, sort of reflects an act of terrorism that was committed by Hamas. If anyone attempted to do that, I would tell them you are not going to do that, because that is not accurate. I know the Muslim community, particularly here in our region. We've worked together. We've been partners fighting for racial, social, economic justice here in our great city, and nothing about that with me is going to change. Now, for all of you, and I thank you for this outlet to be able to share this, I've also seen people attempt to use this as a tool to get to some other things that they never had another vehicle, another way. Right. So I also saw some people saying, you know what, this is a great opportunity to do X, Y, and Z. And you can't stop that from happening in your life. I don't care who you are when that happens. But I thank God for those people who said to me, my brothers, my sisters, who said, well, we know you. We've been with you too long. Keep pressing, keep doing what you're doing, and trying to move our city forward. So thank you so very much for the question.
Yeah, I appreciate you for saying that. And what we attempt to do is to give platform for people to be vocal and tell their own narratives. I think one of the things when it comes to especially as it relates to the community, we get a little nervous, a little tight-lipped when it comes to people coming into the community saying, oh, what do you think about this? And then going back and changing the complete narrative, right? And so one of the things that we always stand on is we want the ability to tell our own narratives, because if we don't, someone else will. And they may do it in a way that ain't necessarily the case, so to speak, right? And so we wanted to be able to give you that platform. So thanks for that. One of the last questions, this time flies. One of the last questions that I have is concerning Black media, right? Oftentimes, especially independent, we don't get the opportunity to have, quote unquote, a seat at the table, right? Oftentimes there are the gatekeepers or people who kind of like box that out. And as I've been a firm advocate on, people within the arts, because we're in the arts, you talk about trades, you talk about people who's, doing things and supporting the community. What would you do as a mayor, if and when, right, to make sure that people like, us, people within the arts, people within these, communities that's uplifting and enhancing and amplifying the voices of the community, what would you do to put in place to make sure that things like that don't happen when it comes to independent media or people with the small voices that's not like the legacy media?
So, one, I don't know if you all know this, but in the primary election, again, and thank you for when you opened, Charles, you referred to me making fun of myself when I told you I just wasn't the underdog in the primary. I was under the dirt. If you read if you paid attention to those polls, but I didn't even make it to my own victory party that night because I had a dental emergency. So I was at the University of Pennsylvania while everybody else was at the party. And one of the things that occurred afterwards was the Philadelphia Black journalists were having an event when the doctor had said, listen, you just coming off this trail, you ended up here, you weren't even at your own party, you need to continue to take these antibiotics and just rest up a bit. Well, they had this event. It was important for me to get up and get there because I needed to signal to them, look, although I've been victorious in this primary election, you need to know that you will be a priority for me. Communicating with you will be a priority for me. I made it to that event. That goes back to my stance. Don't simply listen to what people say. Check out what they do. Check out the substance of their action. And the reason why I bring that up is because there was the email controversy, right, that occurred between some staff members. It was inappropriate. I didn't like it. When I learned about it and what occurred, I took full responsibility for it. I said it's not a reflection of me and who I am and how I think, but it's my campaign. So I have to own what comes out of it. And I did just that. But my behavior, I've never not been available. Now, I'll tell you what I am learning that I am going to do. And this is really different from me, Charles. I have and I'm I told you I'm hip hop plus one, but I was talking to a friend of mine who was saying, how are you different from the Cherelles in your 30s when you had just gotten elected to public office in 2005 or when you were interning? I was very much a people pleaser. I've been a fixer all of my life. I've always been good at taking care of other people, and I've had a difficult time saying no. Because I never wanted to disappoint people. I'm happy to tell you that thanks to God's will, I'm in a place and space in my life that I finally learned that I can't do it all. Right. And so sometimes the answer will be no matter how disappointing it may be. I always try to have an option. I can't do it right now. Can we do it at another time? If I can't do it, can I send a surrogate or somebody else who's a part of my team? But I now know that I have the power to say no, and that the answer won't always be yes. And that might seem like it's something small to a whole lot of people, but for a person like me, who's been a sort of people pleaser is the way I often refer to it as, I've come a super duper long way with that. So, that's sort of where I stand. Access is, I'm going to be accessible. That's who I am. That's who I've always been. And my actions, reflect that. And so, you all called, and I understand that you were working for some time, like trying to,
That's right.
work with us to get this,
That's right.
schedule.
We
Guess
sure
what?
was.
I'm here.
That's right.
Good
we
job,
we
Queen.
appreciate you.
Yeah.
We pulled off the gas on that because we really appreciate giving us the access and giving journalists the access, especially journalists in Philadelphia, because we're having a challenging time here, and a lot of that is because we don't have the access. So it's people like you who are in those leadership positions that can now say, wait. Let's make this a little bit more equitable. And so I appreciate you taking it, Sizzle.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for sacrificing your time to come and sit down with us. We don't take that lightly. And I just wanted to say you kind of just answered my question, but we know that time as a mayor in an impoverished city, coming off especially a post-pandemic year where we saw record numbers of murders. And being a mayor is a 24/7 job. No disrespect to our current mayor. What specifically will you do for your own self-care when you get to that point where mentally, like our current mayor who felt like he couldn't wait till he got to the point where he's no longer mayor, and all it takes for that media outlet to take that one little sound bite that you say and just turn that into just a whole fiasco. Like how will you deal with that, and how will you deal with your self-care? I know you said saying no, but you can't always say no. You know what I mean? Like you can't always turn your phone off, and like how will you take care of yourself?
So is your name Lauren?
Yes.
Yes, Lauren. Okay,
I'm
I want to
sorry.
make sure I was addressing the correct person. Lauren, I have really, and I really do mean this. I am so happy that I campaigned as my authentic self, and I did not try to profit myself as this bastion of perfection. It's because of that I acknowledge my humanness, and I've also said publicly that no one should look at me as if I'm a superwoman. Right, because I'm not a superwoman. I have a super loving village around me. I'm super scheduled. I'm super organized. But a superwoman is something that I'm not. And because of that, because of there are so many people, my former husband and I, we work extremely hard to co-parent our son together. While I'm in the midst of doing my life's work and pursuing my passion, and my purpose. And he and I are working hard to keep things going. And my son's godmother and his grandmother, all of that helps. So I've got to stay girded, in my daily realities with my family, with the people who help make this work. And I also have to recognize that I am going to be functioning, if it's God's will and the people give me the privilege of serving as their mayor. I know that there are people right now that are planning my demise if I win. There are people right now who are hoping that if she does win, we can't wait until they have the first screw up. Somebody told me at a forum, if you do win, as soon as the first homicide comes, they're going to say, see, we told you she was the wrong person for this job. As soon as the first crisis, as soon as something happens in city government, and listen, because we're talking about 26,000 people, human beings who do the jobs, undoubtedly there is going to be a crisis. There's going to be a flaw. Somebody's going to do something wrong. And as soon as that happens, they're going to say, see, we told you it shouldn't be her. Lauren, guess what I've learned that I can't do? I can't let fear of that happening paralyze me into inaction. I've got to stay focused on what I can do right. So that plan, safer, cleaner, greener, economic opportunity for all, every stakeholder, every partner, every community. You asked the question, Purple, about the faith base, about sort of, those questions and concerns. We have to have every member of our spiritual and faith-based community actively involved and engaged on the ground in helping us tackle the problems that we are facing, because we can't do it by ourselves. So Lauren, when I get tired, and if I sat here and I told you that I'm not tired right now, after being out all day, and I said, well, what time is this? They said, well, look, you start at 8:30, right? I'm tired right now, but guess what? I asked for this. I asked the people to give me the ability to do this. And while I'm on the trail, it's going to be uncomfortable questions that are asked. They're going to be, challenging issues that I'm going to have to address. And Lauren, Cherelle Parker's not always going to get it right. She's not going to be perfect. And if you find one person who is, let me know, because we went to the heavens, because they don't exist down here on earth. Even if they want you to think that's who they are, I'm telling you that's not me.
Wow. We talk weeklies after the talk on WPP MLP Philadelphia 106.5 FM. We talk weeklies after the talk. 2 questions for you, and then we'll let you leave. I appreciate your time and giving it to us. I want you to think about it, and the first thing that comes to mind: who is Cherelle Parker?
Cherelle Parker is a textbook case study on how you turn power into pain through her real life lived experience. I didn't know when I was growing up, without my biological father being present, losing my mother at a very young age, having many of my family members deal with challenges, losing my grandmother, helping to take care of my grandfather. That's where my skill set comes from. When you hear me say I'm really good at taking care of people and fixing things for other people, because I learned how to do that as a child. But I didn't know, Charles, that all of that was preparing me to meet this moment. Every crisis that I've had in my life. Sometimes when I'm talking to journalists, people like to remind you about things in your life that you're not proud of, or that you're not happy about. And for me, that's a DUI that occurred in 2011. Not something that I'm happy that happened in my life, but guess what? It was a real life lived experience. You couldn't have told me back during that time that real life lived experience would have helped to prepare me and strengthen me and gird me and prepare me to meet this moment, this critical moment in our city's history. I wouldn't have believed that, because it was so much pain that I went through, because I was living a public life. And that was an experience. And I do understand that other people may experience something like that in a lifetime. Not the point. It happened to me, and I lived a public life. Guess what? I didn't know it would help me, that it would be added value. For one, just like you heard me say that you watch during times of challenge, how people around you respond. That taught me something too about how people, who's there, who's for you, who leaves when times get hard.
That's right.
It reveals who people are. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I said, wait, you smiling and you happy to be around me when the times are good. I just came through one of the worst personal and professional life experiences that I've ever had in my life, but you disappeared. It revealed things to me about people, places, and things, but it taught me great lessons. So that's who I am. Charles, product of very humble beginnings, first generation college graduate, Ivy League graduate, great professional development opportunities that I've had in my life. And I'm proud to tell you that I've done some good things, right? But all of that helps to shape me. So I hope that somebody will look at my life and say, wait, she's not one of these people who was born on third base, hit the ball, and, act like they knocked it out of the park. right? She started behind the home plate, right? And if she can do this, that means I can do it too. So I hope I'm motivating, inspiring, and encouraging somebody to say, no matter how many people tell you you're insufficient, that you don't have enough money, you're not born of wealth, you come from the wrong side of the tracks, you're not qualified. If you just keep your eyes on the prize and stay focused, you can do what your life's desire, as long as it's you and you're not trying to be phony and act the way somebody else wants you to wear the mask. And Cherelle, you should talk this way. You talk with your hands. You talk with your hands, Cherelle. You're too expressive. Your voice is too loud. You need to tone it down. You're just a little too passionate. Some people might get uncomfortable with the way you communicate. If me being me makes you uncomfortable and I'm walking in my path and my purpose and that makes you uncomfortable, is that your problem or mine?
I like
Thank
that.
you.
I like
All right. And last question, we promise. Thank you again, Cherelle. So just a FYI, We Talk Weekly reached 2.2 million homes. Isn't that right, Charles? So
Yes.
there's a lot of people, even non-Philadelphians, that are watching this. So my question is, I have a 26-year-old son who is licensed to carry, and he has his hair in twisties and like the locks. And he's a black young man who lives in Philadelphia. The biggest thing that a lot of what Philadelphians are saying is that stop and frisk has hurt our city at mass incarceration. I'm an early 70s baby, so I'm right there at at Hip Hop Plus One. So we know what that epidemic looks like. And I hear that on your campaign trail a lot. What is the difference between Terry stops and stop and frisk?
So thank you for raising that. And it's a very good question, because I've seen people, especially when they're trying to engage in what I would call trickery, right? They say things that they know are emotionally polarizing for people as a way to say, see, if you support her, this is what you're going back to. And nothing could be further from the truth. You know that there was a federal lawsuit that was actually settled. And what came out of it was called the Bailey Consent Decree. And for the first time in the history of our city, we have a third-party independent verifier reviewing the stops. So we're collecting the data on the stops, and we're having a third party to review those stops. And as that has progressed, we have more work to do in that area. And so I want to acknowledge that 1,001%. What you have heard me say that I fully support, and in no way, shape, or form under a Parker administration would I say to a police commissioner, our Philadelphia Police Department, they are not allowed to employ the use of what are called Terry stops. Terry stops means that a police officer must have just cause and reasonable suspicion that a crime has occurred, will occur, or is being committed in order to stop you. Is that happening right now, Cherelle? Absolutely, it is. But what people wanted me to say on the campaign trail is that I would not allow that to happen. I want to say to each of you that I do not apologize for saying and telling people in this city rightfully that I will use every legal and constitutional tool that is available to ensure the public health and safety of our city. And that means the use of Terry stops. Now, the one thing I also want to add here is that when we talk about employing the use of Terry stops, it also has to be clear that under Parker administration, I will have zero tolerance for any misuse or abuse of authority by law enforcement. If you are a police officer under a Parker administration and you are found to have misused and abused your authority, you will be fired. Sue us in court, or we will see you in arbitration. But there will be no room for police officers who misuse and abuse their authority under a Parker administration. And it's not either or, because just like and thank you for describing your son. My son is 11. He's chocolate like me, and he wears his hair in locks because he wanted his hair like his dad's hair. Well, when his dad had hair, he wanted locks. And so when you talk about that profiling, that sort of that mass incarceration or over incarceration, I know exactly what that risk is. And with that being said, I will not have a police department under a Parker administration that thinks it's okay to do that because my son looks the way he looks. That's not something I would tolerate.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Can I also add this?
Sure.
For those people who have a concern about this issue, I would encourage you to talk to a victim. A victim who, after an investigation has occurred, and you find out that there was a car full of semi-automatic weapons, and the people who actually gunned your son down in broad daylight had these automatic weapons in the car, and they drove by police, and they had a tag that wasn't right, or maybe somebody reported it, and they didn't stop the car for one reason or another. And then you look that mother and that father and that sister in the face, and they say, if the cops had been doing their job, and X who called it in to say that the card looked like this with the tag lopsided or the tag not on, and somebody called that in, and for whatever reason the cops didn't stop that car. Had they stopped that car, just maybe those weapons would not have been used to murder my child. I want us to think about that side of it too, because as I've been on the trail, I've talked to people who've been victims of violence and who are very angry about the police not doing their jobs, even when they've been called about it.
100%. I think we agree with that. I think, it's the wrong interpretation from those bad apples that's considering it being constitutional, but not really constitutional, right? But I think that you're 100% accurate, and I think most of the community would actually agree with you. They want the violence to stop. They want to stop being the victims of the crime that's happening in Philadelphia. And I want to thank you for coming to the show. This is the last question this is like a curveball that I throw all of my guests, and I want you to think really hard about this, right?
What is it?
Really hard. I want you to dig in your purse. And I want you to tell We Talk Weekly, this is the exclusive. I want you to tell We Talk Weekly the one thing that no one else knows about Cherelle Parker. The one thing, I know you got your son on your hip every day, so even the stuff you didn't whisper to him, right? So I want you to tell us the one thing that no one else knows about Cherelle Parker.
This is something that I've said, but even though I've said it before, it's actually two things. Even though I say it, people look at me like, girl, you're right. But it's true. It's really, really true. Like, I am a mean cook, right? I don't care whether or not you think I am, because you're like, well, how do you have time to cook? You're never home. I'm a mean cook, and I can jam.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, I can put it down. I can cut a rug.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to take your word for it. But I want to thank you for coming to the show. As you like I said, as advocates of the arts, I would hope as mayor you definitely stick that arm out and continue to support the arts, because that is the support that people like us need to continue to do what we do, to continue to give people like you the platform to actually clear the air, right? To say the things that sometimes legacy media don't allow you to do, right? And we consider ourselves, focused on solutions, right? And so it's not about pointing fingers, right? But it's about, okay, if we point the finger, we're going to allow you the opportunity to clear the air, and we're not trying to push you to any narrative, right? And so that's what We Talk Weekly does. So we just want to thank you for coming on the show, and we just want to offer you the last word to talk to the constituents, talk to the community, and any last words that you have for them. But we really appreciate you for coming to We Talk Weekly today.
Well, before she does that,
Yeah, sure.
I just, Cherelle, this is Stacey Cherelle, another co-host here. I just wanted to say congratulations again. I got the opportunity last week to watch Cherelle receive the Sammy Award from the Friends of Labor's local 332 union, and your speech brought the house down. You're just phenomenal, and her award was for outstanding community leader, right? And I know this just is one of many that you will receive. So thank you for all that you've been doing in the community, and congratulations again on receiving that Sammy.
Thank you so much. And, Mr. Sam Staten Sr. and the laborers, they helped to start my career. And so that, that wasn't just an award. That meant something pretty heavy to me. And I want to thank you all for just giving me an opportunity to talk with you on this evening. And Charles, you just said something that jogged my memory when you said we want to focus on solutions. That's what you just said, right? You said solutions.
That's correct.
And on the campaign trail, I described some people being what I call expert AOPs. Expert AOPs. They are expert articulators of problems because they can tell you about the problem like they know everything about the problem, and they can stay on the problem, but they are short on potential solutions and saying, well, what about this? Well, what about that? Or, I'm a high energy person. Naturally, that's just who I am. I'm also a fixer. Right. And I want to fix things. So I get really, really drained when all people want to do is to sort of talk about problems and they're not talking about potential solutions. So thank you all for sort of framing our conversation tonight, like from that perspective. Like, yes, this is something that is a challenge, but what are the potential solutions to addressing it? That's who we are. That's what's going to make our city, get better. Not for people who just want to tell us, because I know what that's like when you come from, the humble beginnings I come from. Some people just want to focus on everything negative. I thank God my grandmother pushed me, and don't you use as an excuse that you don't have this. If you want this, you go get a job and you go work for it. Don't use this as an excuse that your dad's not there. You got a grandfather, you got uncles, you got people in the community, you've got coaches, you've got mentors. Don't you tell me about what you don't have as a reason for you not to succeed. It's still dry. It sounds corny. It drives me to the day. That's why I work so hard at what I do. And I want to remove every barrier to having access to a village, and quite frankly, the sense of connectedness that I had growing up. Because although we may financially have been living in poverty, guess what? I was village rich. I was resource rich in the community. So somebody could be saying, but wait, Cherelle, how you gonna talk about that free cheese and your grandmother taking you to the 3-2 center, picking up that colored money, them purple 20s, green 10s, and them brown dollars? How you gonna tell us about that? But I looked at you in that outfit sitting on Santa Claus' lap. And girl, you were fly when you were 4 years old. How'd your grandmother and your family do that? The village.
That's right.
That's what the village makes a way out of no way. So that's what I want for our people. You want to reduce violence? Give a man or a woman access to the ability to take care of themselves, their families, to own a home, stand up straight with a living wage, their own health care, a 401k for retirement security, access to workforce development and training. I have a can-do spirit, and I want that spirit to resonate throughout the city of Philadelphia systemically. Thank you all for giving me an opportunity on tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Cherelle Parker, mayoral candidate. And so, listen, it's one of those things that we try our best to do, right? We try our best to be fair, right? We try our best to, straddle that line of course, opinions. All of us have them, right? All of us have opinions, but in being responsible, right, we have to understand that it's not just us, talking and listening and watching. There's tons of people watching, right? And we don't want to sway anyone when it comes to what the issues are, what the solutions will be. But we do want to offer opportunity for those who claim to fix those issues or, those problems, right? To tell the people how they're going to do it. And we wouldn't be doing the community the due justice that it deserves as we're on these airwaves talking about how, we're so-called journalists, or we really want to amplify the community and give them a way of finding out how to get resources or finding a way to move forward. You can call us out on it. We wouldn't be, it just wouldn't be right for us to do, right? And that would be something that we would have to take, back to the community, say that we really didn't do our jobs, right? And so we stand on what we do here. We Talk Weekly. We're unapologetic about it. We're going to ask the hard questions, but we're going to be fair about it.